First and foremost, I want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son. Once again, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Quadash, and double honors to the elder apostles of the great millstone once again. And to include the elder bishops on down and Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakathum, to the hopeful elect, which are you brothers out there, and it's your brother, Laban. And I want to just give my take on this as well. You know, you have these ICE protesters which are going at it again. And as well as we know that these are agents, probably for the most part, probably funded by the you-know-who, the JOO, such as George Soros, which he's bringing the sorrows right now on this earth, primarily on the side of America in this case. You have certain states, I think it's red states that are protesting against the ICE, and so much so that this is so out of hand now that even the police can't even deal with it. So without further ado, let's play this video, man. Let's get into it as usual. Wow. Yeah, so they've showed different places around America. They've showed Portland, Oregon. They've showed Chicago and many other places that this is going on in. And we know exactly why this is even being had in the first place any doggone way. All right. And we know, according to the scriptures, man, you're going to have these things happen. Second Ezra, the 9th chapter. I thought I had it queued up already. We very well know that these are the times that are declaring to us that the Lord is about to return. We're seeing these things as signs and wonders. And even when you're talking about signs, we got to refer to your blood moons, your rarity blue moons, and your micro moons. And there's another thing that there's another phenomenon that I'm thinking about. Your solar eclipses and your strange wonders that are going on in the sun, all that stuff. And then when we look down upon the earth, we see rioting, protesting, and earthquakes hitting diverse places, all of this stuff that Yahweh Shai spoke about. And it's very simple to us that we're closing into the time of the Lord's return, man. And we're closing into the ending of Esau, So all of this stuff, man, it's just going to go out of proportion. This ain't nothing more than a test of what's really going to be had in places around the world, primarily in America. And then martial law is going to be brought forth and declared for real, where these soldiers they're going to have the free will, going for the gusto, killing as much people as they have to kill, because it's just going to be chaotic. People are going to lose their fucking minds. They're going to collapse the system, and the way that life has forever been for the American people, the comforts are going to be taken away from them, and things are going to change for the very worst. All right. So let's read this first and foremost, man. This is 2 Ezra 9 and verse 1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. So if you're watching the news and you're keeping your eyes open to what's happening, then you can clearly see that the prophecies are going to jump out of the books of the Bible, and they're going to fall into fruition. And it's going to let you know that, look, Yahweh Shai is on his way, as this is going to be reading about, as this is written. And when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou will understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So, dealing with the uproars of the people, if the uproars of the people become more poignant, then there's going to have to come a time of insurrection. And this is the reason why they're setting the stage for all of this to happen in the first place, so that is the elder apostle Tahar brought about, and so that they can pass the Insurrection Act. And I've actually looked up this a while back ago. I think it was last month ago. I was going into this on how the Insurrection Act, which was established in 1807, and then what is it? 71 years later, you had what was called the Posse Comitatus Act, which is a part of the Constitution, and that act disallows disallow the Insurrection Act. But what they need to be had is something to pave the way for the reason and why they need to bring the Insurrection Act into action, which they will do because prophecy says so. Okay, and then once they got that down, then all of a sudden your rights will be revoked. Your right to defend yourself in court and to defend yourself overall while you've been wrongfully arrested or dragged out of your house, all of that is going to go out the window. Because when martial law is declared, that's when the military is going to have rule over what's going to be had. People are going to have to go by what the military says or else be killed on sight. And then you're going to have things such as summary execution. And martial law just means war-like law. So the military are going to be had in giving the ability to go to war against the American people. That means the American people, especially those that of the American people that have various different ideologies against government, they're going to be looked at as thieves. All right. So I want to read this as well. This is 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter in verse 70. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. And they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord, which ties into Revelations 12 and 12. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. And then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire, which is in relation to what? Zechariah 13 and 9, if I'm correct. Hear, O ye my beloved, say of the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. Daniel 12 and 1. Which all of this is gonna encompass Jacob's trouble. This is what's being prepared on the face of the earth, primarily in America. All right. So let's read this article as well. Speaking of that scripture that I just started with, 2nd Ezra 16 and 70. Trump's threat to invoke Insurrection Act escalates showdown with Democratic cities. On the 7th of October, hundreds of Texan National Guard soldiers gathered on Tuesday at an Army facility outside Chicago as Donald Trump's threat to invoke an anti-insurrection law and deploy troops to more U.S. cities intensified the battle over the limits to his authority. The Republican president on Tuesday again left open the possibility that he might use the century-old Insurrection Act to sidestep any court ruling, blocking the dispatch of Guard troops in Democratic-led cities over the objection of local and state officials. And that's who he's coming up against. All right, is the red city states, the red states, Salakia. So if he can invoke the Insurrection Act, then now it's martial law time. It's martial law. It's very simple. So before martial law is had, you need a reason. And this is where these false flags come in. This is when you have people like George Soros, or should I say where? This is where you have people like George Soros that will come in and fund these various different setups just to cause a matter of confusion. And there goes their reasoning right there and there. All right. Which the word insurrection means in risings. And then they'll be able to activate that law. And then they can be able to act against those that have different ideologies. And for the most part, when it's martial law, again, everyone's a terrorist. Everyone's going to be considered a T at that point, especially the people that have different viewpoints against the government. All right. Yeah, so I want to change the topic a little bit. Not a little bit, but a great bit. This man over here, Lenny Henry, which at a time he was the most loved, one of those comedians among our people down in the UK, is now facing backlash. Of course he would face backlash because these so-called white people, they don't agree to the fact that we deserve reparations, which reparations ain't coming anyway, because for one, they don't have the money to give reparations. And even if they did, they wouldn't dare do that because it's bad for business. All right. It's bad for Esau and the way his society functions. All right. Lenny Henry faces backlash after calling for slavery reparations for Black Britons. And without reading the article, I'm going to say that he mentioned that we deserve 18 trillion pounds for reparations. That's as far as I'm going to go with this, right? And like I said, they don't have that kind of money. And even if Jake was given reparations, Jake has been so beaten down for so many years and been indoctrinated to think the way that they think and just being consumers rather than being people that can actually run businesses for so long, like I said. So if you were to give Jake reparations, they would give it right back into the hands that gave them the reparations in the first place. All right? Which it ain't going to happen. But reparations will come from a biblical standpoint. All right? And it's going to be the Lord that's going to give the reparations that as this is written. So again, by the same one that allowed this to happen is going to be by the same one that's going to pave the way for us to be truly repaired as a people. And this is how it's going to be done. Isaiah 42 and verse 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hidden prison houses. And the prison houses represents the various places that we were scattered abroad in, being slaves for these various corporations, which we can no longer call countries anymore. They are for prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith restore. Exactly. These nations ain't in the business to restore us because it's gonna pretty much destroy their setup. All right. If you look at what happened in ancient Rome, Jake took over ancient Rome. Because ancient Rome, the way they was running things at the time, when you go into the history, they weren't going off of race. It was basically off of class. So if you came from a good class of people in ancient Rome and you was a Jake, you was into that position of power. You could get up in to that position of power. But right now, it's more sophisticated. It's about race. It's about your class. And because of where we come from as a people, from the 1600s onwards, we've been in the same situation because Esau made it so that very well be the case. So now it's difficult for Jake to be mobile in class to class. All right. Because they've checked the history out. They know if you give Jake some kind of support, then Jake is going to take over because of our potential. So if you give Jake reparations, you may have to worry about a few other Jakes that may come up on things. And they don't want that. They want to keep us slaves because it just works better for their society. All right. We are the cradle of civilization. We made these nations great. We put the great in these nations when we're slaves. But when you take us out of slavery, guess what? These nations result the turmoil. All right. That's one of the reasons why Jake ain't gonna be getting no reparations anytime soon. Who among you will give ear to this? And who will hearken and hear for the time to come? Who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Did not the Lord Yahweh, he against whom we have sinned? That's exactly what I was saying. For they would not walk in his ways, and neither were they obedient unto his law. Because again, the Most High chose us to be a special people unto himself. So if we were chosen to be a people unto himself, we should have kept all of the things that he has given us to keep. The instructions, the laws, which are the statutes and the commandments. So we rejected all of that. So now we have to deal with the consequence, and the consequence is being low at the bottom and having to depend on the other nations for the one of all things, and to being swallowed up, being oppressed as a people. All right. Therefore, he hath poured upon him the fury of his anger and the strength of battle, and it hath set him on fire round about, and yet knew not, and it burned him, and yet he laid it not to heart. Right. So we were destroyed as a people for 500 years, and I say we were, but we are still. Okay. So again, who's going to give ear to our problems? Who's going to acknowledge our plight? The only one that's going to give ears to our plight is the Lord, because again, the Lord is the one that allowed this to happen. So it's going to take him to bring the repairing, not Esau. These other nations, they hear our plight, they hear our complaints, but they don't give a shit. Only the Lord is going to give a shit because he's the one that did it. All right. So for a particular point in time, we're going to suffer these things, and the Lord is going to re-up. The Lord is going to have us be freed from all of this curse that we're experiencing right now. So now let's even read this as well. Deuteronomy 32 and verse 39. Now that I am he, and there is no God with me, I kill, I make alive, I wound, I heal, and neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. Exactly. So whatever the Lord does, that's what will be, good or bad. And the main thing that I want to focus on is the fact that we were brought to a curse, robbed and spoiled as a people. So the Lord brought that evil upon us. So if he's the one that brought it upon us, he's the only one that can take it away from us. All right. As well as it's also written that no man shall buy you. In the book of Deuteronomy 28 and 68, it says that, matter of fact, let me go and pull that. Let's read that. We're going to go 4 precepts. We're going to go 4 chapters backwards, and we're going to read that. It says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, which means bondage, by the way thereof, whereof I spake unto thee, and thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. In other words, no man is going to redeem us from being slaves currently. So the only one which will do it is the one which is coming as an angelic force, which is the anointed one, the one that died on the cross for our sins. Hence is why he's coming back the second time. This is the reason why who the world calls Jesus Christ is coming back a second time, to redeem his people from out of the curses, which is captivity, which is being spoiled, robbed and spoiled, should I say correctly. All right, so now let's go back to where we was at before. Yeah. So as this reads, for I lift up my hand to heaven, and I say, I live forever. Right. This is the Most High speaking here through Moses. If I whet my glittering sword and mine hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies and will reward them that hate me. Absolutely. And the Lord is going to be able to do that. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives, from the beginning of revenges upon the enemy. And that reminds me of Isaiah 63, if I'm correct. Okay, because when Yahushua comes back, which is the right hand side of the Father, he's going to execute judgment upon the heathen and upon those that have sinned against him. All right. So that's all going to be well known and shown all around. And it's going to be well known and shown that because of our miraculous salvation, which Yahushua is going to be responsible for, we're going to be well known as the Israelites. Okay. So the Lord is going to restore us ultimately from all of the curses that have had an effect upon us. That's why this reads over here, fear not, O land, be glad and rejoice. The point is in verse 25. For the Lord will do great things. Be not afraid, ye beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness do spring. For the tree beareth her fruit, the fig tree and the vine do yield their strength. Be glad then, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord. Zion represents the children of Israel. Yahweh your power, for he hath given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause you to come down for you. Let me slow it down a bit. Let me calm the hell down. To calm down for you the rain, the former rain, and the latter rain in the first month. And the floor shall be full of wheat, and the fat shall overflow with wine and oil. So in other words, we're going to be abundant. And I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you. And this is referring to Deuteronomy, 28 and 33 to verse 35, where it mentions that the nations that will be, the enemies that which is among you will, the other nations that are among you will get up above you very high, and thou shalt be oppressed more. But there's a scripture that I'm really focusing on though, which also reads that, matter of fact, let me go and read that instead of me roughly paraphrasing it and struggling. Let me just go and read it. Yeah, Deuteronomy 28 and verse, what we talking? Yeah, 33. Exactly. This is it right here. The fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed away. So that's basically the point. That's what this connects to, what I was reading over here in Joel 2 and 25. So the palmer worm, the cankerworm, the caterpillar, the palmer worm, this is symbolic, representing the nations which would eat our labors, which we would then make them rich, of course, by our labors. All right. So the Lord is going to pretty much make good with that. The Lord is going to bring justice. So what is the justice which will be had is that we're going to be restored in owning people. And by owning these nations that have owned us, we're going to be abundant. We're going to be plentiful. And ye shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your power, that have dealt wondrously with you, and my people shall never be ashamed. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your power, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. So that's what this is referring to, is the fact that these nations have consumed us physically, by war, and economically. They've eaten all of what we've labored for, and they've been living fat. They've been abundant according to our labor. So guess what? The Lord is going to what? Change things around, and we're going to be abundant. This is how the real reparations is going to go. Not some bullshit 18 trillion that Esau can just simply print out, and now we're more so indebted to the system than we've ever been because it's printed money. All right. The more Esau prints his money, that we have to depend on is the more things go up in price. So that 18 trillion ain't going to be to no use. That's the scripture says, trust not in uncertain riches, because there's no truth to the Esau's riches. All right, it's so-called riches that he's given us. So yeah, that's all I got to say with this over here. I want to give all of the praise and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, Barakatham, to the elect from the heads, which is the elder apostles and the elder bishops and the brothers on down, and all of you brothers, man, that are learning and listening too. And once again, I'm closing and I say that I'm out. Shalom.